Hello and welcome to the Film Ireland podcast, where we celebrate filmmaking, storytelling and cinema across the island of Ireland. So this episode was recorded live at the Capital Irish Film Festival, and I heartily recommend that you go if you get the chance. Presented annually by Solas Nua, the 20th edition of the festival ran from the 26th of February to the 1st of March in Washington, D.C. So filmmakers do note that submissions will be opening in a little while on Film Freeway. So in a few moments, I chat with producer, writer and director Ruán Magan, whose films Báite and Daniel O'Connell, The Emancipator, were both screening in the programme. But first we learn more about the brilliant work they do by catching up with the festival's director, Maedhbh Mc Cullagh. So thank you so much for chatting with us. It's really, really lovely to be here in Washington, D.C. And I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about the festival, where it came from, and the vision now of what this film festival is.
So the festival was started 20 years ago by a curator called Linda Murray, who had come to work in DC, and at the time she was really working in theatre, and she found that there wasn't much work directly coming from Ireland to DC, and she wanted to change that. And so she set about setting up the organisation that is Solas Nua. And then the following year, within the first year of them being in operation, she put together a film programme. And that film programme snowballed then and has become what we now know as the Capital Irish Film Festival. So I came on board in 2022. I was hired by the former executive director, Miranda Driscoll. And at the time, the festival had been going for almost, I think, 16 years. And it really had established itself. And I felt my role was to really expand it, to amplify the message of what we're trying to do here, but also back in Ireland, to bring on board new funding streams, and to really try and make it a standout signature festival along the Irish Film Festival circuit. I suppose I look at it as being the platform for Irish independent film in DC, but also in the US. We partner with a lot of other Irish film festivals. We're also part of this really wonderful network called Nafona, which is a network of independent Irish film festivals across the state. So it's really wonderful, because if we're engaging with artists in Ireland, we're bringing them to DC, but we're also looking at bringing them to Chicago or to New York, or partnering with San Francisco or Seattle or LA. So it's a wonderful opportunity. And then in terms of, the curation of the program and what we want to show, I'm really looking to centre women's voices. I'm looking to help audiences here discover new Irish voices, new talent on screen. So more than half the programme this year are directors making their feature directorial debut. Irish language is also central to the programme. So this year we have 14 films that feature Irish dialogue. Yeah, and then I suppose films that really reflect the pluralist, modern, contemporary Ireland that's as multifaceted and universal as any other place could be.
And in terms of the people who come watch the films, is there a distinct audience? Does it change every year?
We have a core group that come every year that are the stalwarts. They are the supporters. They're the first people to buy the passes. They come to everything. Today at the third last screening, I actually asked everybody, because I always introduce myself, so I asked everybody to put their hand up if they'd been to any of the other films today, or if they were a pass holder, and literally I think it was like a third of the audience put their hand up. So it's almost 100 people. So there's a really core group of people who are devotees to Solas Nua, but also really passionate about film. And then we have a really broad audience it's a real mix of ages, people from different parts of DC. Some people come obviously from Maryland, from Virginia. When we say DC, we're talking about the entire metro area. But they're very discerning, they're very well educated, they have real opinions about the film. They want to engage with the artists. And, so one of the things I tried to do when I came on board to take on the festival is to try and have as many of the artists travel with their work, because it makes for such a different experience as an audience member to hear the artists talk about their work, and to hear them talk about their practice of making the work, to hear more about the ecosystem that's happening in Ireland, north and south. So, one of the other things we're trying to do with the festival is bring filmmakers from Northern Ireland and the South, and so as part of that we do have a short film award, the Norman Houston Short Film Award. So yeah, the audience, they're very aware of Irish affairs, they're very up to date with contemporary news and social stories that are taking place in Ireland. And then this year we have a lot of new people, younger people, and then a lot of older people. We had a couple that flew up from Florida. We had another couple that came from Baltimore. We had more people that came down from New York. So, yeah, we've definitely reached some level of a tipping point this year in expanding audiences.
And there's been some really, really packed out screenings. One thing on our end, the festival culture that we know is it's good crack. So I was told by two filmmakers, go to this one because it's good fun.
Yeah, we had last year, I think, all in all, there were 27 visiting artists that come over. Luckily we're supported by Culture Ireland, and we're supported by Screen Ireland, we're supported by the Irish Film Institute's international programme, the Embassy of Ireland, the Emigrant Support Programme, Government of Ireland, Northern Ireland Screen, the Northern Ireland Bureau. There's a real circular level of support across agencies, north and south, and then over here locally. And what it means is when we can bring those artists over, it's just an opportunity for them to, I suppose, allow a different audience to see their work. But the other part of that is they love the social aspect of the festival, but they also love the fact that they're engaging with other Irish artists that they may never get to hang out with. And a lot of them have said it was the first time they'd met those filmmakers while they were here, because we do build the social part of the festival is as important to us as the screening part, because we really want people to talk and connect and build community around these films, and it seems to be working this year. We're also lucky because we're at AFI, so this is the American Film Institute sort of East Coast home, and it's a restored Art Deco theatre with two other theatres now built alongside it. So we've 3 theatres. We program and present here for the entire weekend. So what it means is everybody is huddled together. And having worked many different festivals over the years and different types of festivals, it's wonderful when you can bring everybody to one physical place, because then you can sort of galvanize them a little bit together and keep them together. But yeah, the social aspect is big.
And tell me about, maybe some of the evolution of the festival. So if it started off smaller, how did it get bigger? Did the types of films and themes change over time?
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak more to, I suppose, the last 4 years. I've always known that the people who were involved, that was Pat Riley, who's a former director, Paddy Mescal, who's the board chair emeritus of Solas Nua, who are still involved. Pat still comes every year. Paddy, we had host the conversation after Báite's screening yesterday. They've always gone to Galway, they've always stayed in touch with what's happening, and I suppose what it was a much smaller festival. But the calibre and the quality of work has always been phenomenal, and I think that the through line in the festival to this day has been that when you're looking at work from Solas Nua, you're not just looking at work directly coming from Ireland, you're looking at quality work and work of a certain pedigree, and artists who have very clear ideas about their practice and about what they want to do and articulate that. And so I suppose that's the continuity. Where things have shifted and changed, there are some program strands. For example, this year, the language was one program strand, music was another, obviously politics and social realism was another strand. A lot of it is determined by the films, and this year was very, very different to last year. But I think, centering new voices, women's voices, really putting a spotlight on the language, also having a focus on film from Northern Ireland. The things that we'd love to do more of are obviously we've a wonderful dialogue series. We have at least 8 Q&A talkbacks, or yesterday we had a panel discussion. So this year we've expanded with our partnerships. We partnered with University College Dublin Creative Futures Academy. So we had PJ Matthews over to speak with Nuala O'Connor from South Wind Blows about their film In Time Dónal Lunny. And then we partnered with University College Cork and University of Notre Dame on a documentary by Ruán Magan, Daniel O'Connell, the Emancipator. And for that one, then we also partnered with the American Irish 250 Committee, who are organising a year-long series of events honouring the connection between Irish people and the origins of the United States of America as it's as it started out in 1777. So there's a lot of partnerships, there's a lot of expansion. Obviously one area that's also grown is in terms of our funding and having those sort of relationships that have, you know, deepened and grown with Ireland and with those funders in Ireland. And then also expanding on that, especially like this year we've just started conversations with TG Ceathair because we're presenting 14 films that have, you know, Irish in them, and I think 6 of those films were directly funded by TG Ceathair, Comisiún na Man. So I think ultimately what we're trying to do is to be a home for Irish filmmakers to come to the States. So there could be a film, like there was filmmakers coming over, we screened their film, they couldn't be with us because their film is actually going to release next month. So one of the things I was trying to do was to basically figure out, well, what other cities could they bring that film to in terms of lining that up with their release. And I suppose having the network of those relationships in DC and the fact that I live in New York City and come down to DC and then have these relationships across the, you know, the US is super helpful. And then I would just say, you know, we're also part of this wonderful ecosystem over here within the Irish diaspora. And the connections are phenomenal. So there's, just in DC, there's Irish Network DC. There's a new network that's just started called the Shift Cultural Network. There's also the Global Irish team at the embassy and at the consulates. And then these other arts organisations that happen to focus on Irish presentation, whether it's in New York or down here. So it's a vibrant, living, moving thing. I just hope that we can keep enticing those filmmakers to come over here. We've a few North American premieres. We're not afraid to take risks with new voices. And luckily, I get a chance to go to Ireland every year and see the work. And then, you know, start those conversations with filmmakers and build that rapport and those relationships.
Since you've been with the festival and, you know, seeing an array of voices come through in terms of creativity and films, have you noticed even a change in those few years? Has there been any kind of evolution in the types of stories being told, or even a shift?
I suppose one thing that I've noticed is that there are, first of all, there's a lot more film than there was even 4 years ago. It's astonishing. Probably the hardest part of the job is we are expanding the number of films we're presenting every year, but there's still only a finite amount you can present in 4 days. Yeah. And right now our program's so chock-a-block, there's very little room between the films to build in. We'd love to build in more dialogues. We'd love to build in more panel discussions and industry events. But I think also, just in terms of the music documentaries that have been coming through the last few years, there's a younger generation of filmmaker who just seems to be getting out there and doing it their way. We also had a discussion last night with another filmmaker just in terms of speaking for someone of his age and his generation. They may not want to be limited by some of the contracts that are involved when you are funded or have to take funding. And he in particular decided with one film that he was doing that he wanted to basically do it on his own way. And so I thought that was a very, you know, very bold, courageous choice to make. Yeah. I suppose that's the shift. It's the volume of work that's coming through. And then it's also, I suppose, the nature and style of some of the documentaries that we're seeing.
And would you have any hopes or goals to change for the future? Is there anything that you'd, you know, love to grow it even further, or is it just about like there's a lot on? I don't know how you manage this.
There's a lot on. I think for me, I mean, in terms of presenting a weekend like this, being able, the dream would be that we would bring all of the artists with their work, so that the artists would get to be here and talk about the work through their voices, through their eyes. Having the artists then be here together outside of Ireland to have a conversation about their work. Like over the last 4 years, we've been recording all of these conversations with artists that have come over and been here at the same time. Sometimes it's to do with the theme that's coming up in the work. Sometimes it's more to do with learning more about what it means to be a filmmaker in Ireland right now, or what their challenges are. or letting them enter into a conversation that we're just listening into. I don't necessarily think that we need to go bigger, and the bigger would make it best. Somebody said we're the largest program of Irish film in North America. That's a really wonderful thing, but it's not that we're measuring it in terms of volume. The wonderful thing is that the relationships are there, and it's wonderful to have presented a filmmaker and then go to Galway and then meet them and then learn about the next project that they're doing. So there have been some filmmakers who we've brought over 2 to 3 years in a row. There's one filmmaker, and it just is the way it happened. We have 2 of their films here this year. So I would like to see those relationships deepen. I would like to learn more about how we can be a better support to independent filmmakers over here. The thing that's come, that rings loud and clear over the last 4 years is there is a market for Irish filmmaking in the US. We can connect it to the diaspora, but really it's much bigger than that. It's to do with the fact that the caliber of work coming out of Ireland and the type of storytelling is just phenomenal. I always say it stands up on its own, not because it's Irish, but because it's really great storytelling. It's also the fact that, we talked about this in opening night, the nature of the stories that are coming out of Ireland. There's this courage and fierceness and boldness to not be afraid of the truth and to tell the truth, and also to go very deep and very dark, and then also to hold the light and hold the humour. And I really think it's what makes this sort of Irish psyche, it's what we're known for, I suppose, but it's this idea of holding the dark and holding the light. And I do think I don't know enough about what's going on at home all the time. It's just what I read, but you can see where the industry itself has grown. I mean, I read about the training schemes that are happening. I would love to be in Ireland and benefiting from them, even in terms as a presenter, producer. But so I don't know if it's bigger is best. I just think there's a wonderful market here, and I would love to see us deepen that and grow that, and also present work that's going to go across the States, because there's so many different Irish centres across the States. And then also we have these relationships in terms of being able to give a filmmaker an opportunity to potentially release, their film, or at least help them get it across the States.
And what is the element that you're most proud of, or your favourite piece of the festival to do?
Oh, overall?
Yeah.
I think, I would say it's probably getting to know the filmmakers, but there is a moment, I wrote an email to everybody at the start of the festival, and I just had a little emotional heartstring, tug, just remembering when I saw their film, and what it did to me and how moving it was, or just something I discovered in it. So I do think it's the work, I suppose, predominantly, but it's also getting a chance to meet the filmmaker, and also understand maybe there's something that we can do to connect them. Maybe it's beyond the festival, or not through the festival. But, I've always worked in the arts, coming from a performing arts background initially, and I don't know, just the life and the work of the artist and the role of the artist in society. It's so important that we support artists, that we give them what they need to do their work. They know what they need. And so we do it in a very small way with the festival, but we know it's meaningful from the feedback we get from the artists, which is the best ever. I suppose that's it, to hear back from a filmmaker. By being at your festival, I was able to do this. Denise Deegan was with us last year, and oh my gosh, she's just, she's just a ball of light. But she just had a really powerful experience. There was some connections that we were able to make for her here that led to her film going on and being taken up by a different network, and that was wonderful. Another filmmaker had actually submitted his film via Film Freeway. And, I obviously choose a lot of the work from what I see, but I also accept submissions from Film Freeway. And it was just such a phenomenal film. And he'd never made a film before. He wasn't funded. I think he had a small amount of money from Northern Ireland Screen. But he basically, we screened his film, and that film went on to get picked up by one of the bigger festivals in Ireland. And so it really taught us something that, there's actually, we have this, it's a dual carriageway. there's room and opportunity to connect and to give something back, even as we're presenting the work here. So, yeah, we're much closer than we think we are to Ireland, which is great.
Yeah, it isn't, and they've direct flights, which is the main, which is the handiest thing. But thank you so much. It's been just a really wonderful festival, and yeah, I hopefully look forward to coming back, and definitely would recommend anyone to submit their film.
Thank you so much, Gemma. It's been great to have you and to do these interviews, but also it's been so great to have your film Conveyance. Oh, really brilliant. Thank you so much
for screening it. It was a real honour. Now we're delighted to welcome Ruán Magan, who was presenting two of his films, Báite and Daniel O'Connell, The Emancipator. Thank you so much for chatting with us.
Is anor mór dumsa bheith caint latsa, Gemma. Diolch.
So you're here at the Capital Irish with two projects and to do a very important introduction. I was just wondering if you could let us know what your kind of jam-packed festival schedule is and what you're supporting.
Well, you know, it's amazing to be here. Now, the first thing to know is, and you know, because you've got a film here too, Gemma, but we're screening in this beautiful cinema called the Silver Theatre, which has been around for about 100 years, and it's everything you can imagine. It's Art Deco, all those little light bulbs, amazing history. I was just looking at a photograph of it today from the 1930s, I think, with Shirley Temple, our name in lights at the top of it, and just to be part of that kind of history with your films, it's just wonderful to be, you know, walking in the same footsteps is just brilliant. So I've got a film called Báite. Scanán Gaelach, it's Canada Cine Cahars. It's just been released next week, so we're currently showing it in a few festivals around the world, and it's just really exciting because it's a small film set in the west of Ireland, murder mystery, in Irish, and you just don't know how this is going to play with audiences. But so far so good, they love it. And then we have a documentary which I made about Daniel O'Connell, which plays as well. Which is very much a story of our times, because he's a man who sort of fights for emancipation and human rights, which we could use a little bit more of these days.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of things that are quite timely in terms of Báite as well. It's a beautiful period piece, and it looks back at a very specific point in Irish history in terms of the rights of women, then even bringing it back into this. I was wondering if you could tell me about, you know, where the idea came from and when you came on board.
So Báite is based on a book by Sheena Labert called The Lake, and Sheena adapted her book for screen, so she wrote the screenplay as well. And you're so right, there's an awful lot going on. I mean, at a very surface level, it's a murder mystery. Body gets found at the side of a lake. Who that person is has massive impact for everybody in the village, and there's a lot of suspicion. Who is it? Who did it? What happened? But then in the undercurrent of all that, there are just these great themes which are about an old Ireland struggling with a new Ireland. Peggy, the heroine, sort of manifests or is trying to save this pub, but she wants to turn it into a new business. I kind of see her as very much the embodiment of the Ireland that we have now. She's struggling and fighting against old forces to try and create a new vision for Ireland. Albeit it's our pub, but in the pub is embodied all of these things that she imagines could be. But all her siblings are leaving the country because that's what it was like back in the 70s.
And it's really, really wonderful. And I would say the performances are gorgeous, and Cine Cahar is a good scheme. Like it's a good chunk of funding, but probably like the fact that it's a period piece. Was there any kind of, I don't know, trepidation there when you were kind of signing on to go, oh my God, it's set in the 70s? How can we afford this?
You're right about that there was a lot of worries, a lot of concerns. I mean, to start with, T.G. Cahar and Screen Ireland were so brave to fund it because it's not only set in the 70s, it's also set in the 1950s. So we have two periods that both need their own production design, costumes, and then we also have actors who are playing parts in both periods. For a long time we thought, do we have different actors of different ages in both of them? But we felt, no, let's just bite the bullet and try and cast people who are aged somewhere in the middle of the two periods, and then age them younger and age them older. And that seems to have worked out. The actors also are incredible who did those roles. But the period thing, it was exciting. It was a good challenge to take on. And one of the first things we decided is let's make the 1970s feel like really modern. So everything in it oh yeah, I could drive that car, I'd love that, or I'd love those clothes, or I'd love... So it, although everything's very authentic 70s, it sort of feels like a space you'd like to inhabit today.
Oh, it is that shot of that like classic car going over that hill and the beautiful lake. It's very, very cinematic. Coming on as a director and then working on your own documentaries, is it a kind of welcome break to do something, you know, that's so visually stylized? And then, you know, when you're editing and writing and in the process, you know, what are the different hats like then to...
Do you know, it's funny. I started out in the film business, so as a trainee and in locations and as an assistant director, first assistant director, working on films like Far and Away and Michael Collins. And so movies is in my blood. And then when I was in my 30s, I got into making documentaries and I just loved it. I absolutely adore making documentaries. And now I've done a bit of drama over the last few years. This is my first movie. My God. Now you're going to laugh, but I think documentaries are way harder than movies, right? Because with movies you've got a script, you've got actors, and you've got this big crew. I mean, even on a small cine car film, you're still working with 40, 50 people. And all of them are leaning into to making this film together. Like, it's so collaborative and absolutely thrilling for that. On a documentary, you're just working one or two people. There is no script. You're finding it all the time. You're struggling to make... a shot of a street, a shot of a building, a shot of a sky, a shot of some birds means something. Like, so it's lots of uninflected shots, and you're trying to cut them together to form something that has deep meaning. So you're always struggling to find the film, and it's only the very, very final day when you lock the offline that you go, oh, now I see the film. Whereas with a feature film, you literally shoot the scene and you have a rough, assembly in the afternoon or in the evening, and you're already seeing how the scene is working. Very, very different disciplines. But the two kind of cross-fertilize for me. So I tackle the documentaries now with a 3 or 5 act structure, and always try and see the characters, always have the story turn every couple of minutes like you would in a movie. And then with I don't know, the movies, are they being influenced by documentaries? I don't know.
Do you like to take a break in between each one? Do you have a slate of things and, when the funding goes through, it goes? Or do you consciously take a break between each one? And then you also do sort of commercial work and recording. And just how do you find that works as well in terms of your own career and what you want to do, finding the balance there?
I like working all the time. So I just keep working. I love it. I love the way that if you have 2 or 3 projects going, they're talking to each other, even though they're completely unrelated. I'm doing a documentary at the moment about the transatlantic slave industry, or whatever, that appalling travesty that happened to last over 4 centuries, where millions and millions of Africans were taken from their homes and put into forced labour in the Caribbean so that money could be made by the European powers, right, and by the wealthy and by the elite. But that documentary holds hands with the Daniel O'Connell documentary very much. Like they're, and it also connects very much to one I made years ago on the Irish famine called The Hunger, which happens around the same time. So there's a conversation going on between all of the documentaries, and I'm already reading and thinking about the next thing I'm going to do next year. So that's how the head works. The next movie I want to make is kind of set in a similar period with some shared themes. So the whole thing is kind of, all the ideas are kind of cross-referencing and talking to each other.
What's it like then sharing, 2 for 1 at this festival? It's probably unusual, is it, to have 2 big long-form projects screening together in a festival, to share them with both local audiences, then you have, European, and now we're in America. Do you feel like they're received different? Because, we've such a big expat population here in the States.
We were talking earlier about how your film was received the other day by the audience here, and I was thinking when listening to you how if you showed it again tomorrow here in the same city in the same cinema, you're going to get a different response. Like every single audience you show something to has a different feeling about it, and that's what's so thrilling. Sometimes people don't like your film, and the next night they love it, right? So there's a vibe, there's something happens, something magical happens in a cinema, in a room, when people watch something together. And it's also like really good and interesting when people don't like your film, because that's part of it too, right? So I don't think it matters that we're in America or that we might be in Ireland or like the things I've made we've screened them in Africa, we've screened them in China, we've screened them in South America, we've screened them all over the place, and you get an equally resonant response from audiences all over the world, no matter what the nationality or culture is, if the film is true to itself.
I suppose it's interesting as well, a home audience, and somewhere like this, it's such a lovely festival because, you know, it celebrates Irish film in America. Do you feel there is a different, like, even energy or, you know, kind of like a more warmness in a place where, you know, like we're here kind of culturally to support Irish work, and then if you're kind of up against international, you know, all international films, do you feel like that changes as well, the way that your film is watched or the way that your film is interpreted?
I'm not sure I do think that. Yeah. But as I said earlier, like if we screen something now and we screen it tomorrow, screen it the next day in the same city with the same sort of audience available, there's just going to be a different response. But the most exciting screenings that I come to mind are, you know, 1916 in Moscow, or Steps of Freedom, which is a history of Irish dance, but it tells the story of Irish history as well. We showed that in Nigeria earlier last year, and the response was just incredible. There's a little bit of West Africa in the documentary, but I was kind of embarrassed about that, and I apologise in advance in case I might be causing any offence without, you know, recognising that I could. That didn't happen at all. They were so interested. I mean, many of them hadn't heard of Ireland or didn't really know much about it, and yet they're watching this history and going, "That's our story too. We get this." Yeah. We've also been oppressed. We also use dance and we use music to sort of encapsulate our culture and encapsulate our pride in ourselves. So if the story is universal, it's going to carry.
And is it more crack to, you know, okay, so your great Daniel O'Connell documentary is available to watch online, and I'll put the link for the RT player in with the podcast and the YouTube video. But in terms of like that communal viewing in a space with multiple people, like, is that more satisfying, or is it sort of nicer just to get it out into the world with as many eyeballs as possible?
That's it. That idea, that question is something I'm spending an awful lot of time thinking about, and you know, because television's under siege, cinema is also having a lot of problems, right? So things are changing, and with the documentaries, for the last 2 or 3 years, we've gone to a lot of effort to have a series of screenings before it goes out on television. And there's a buzz in those rooms that is just incredible. And people, there's something different between a documentary and a movie, because a documentary, it's a truth which is being presented, and whether you agree with the truth or you want to argue with it, that's fascinating. Let's roll up our sleeves and get talking about it. That doesn't so much happen with a movie. You know, go, I like that actor, I like that, it didn't really land with me. But with a documentary, it's very different. Like, people are arrested intellectually, and they have things they want to say, and you can influence the conversation that's going on beyond the cinema. So yeah, I'm really, really buzzed about bringing these documentaries around the world to show them in rooms, to show them in spaces. We made a documentary called Our Blue World. It's an environmental documentary about the crisis of water across the planet. You see it with the rain in Ireland recently, or the floods in different parts of the world, or the wildfires in California. And that documentary's just been picked up on National Geographic, but we've spent 2 years travelling the world with it. We've shown it in the UN, we've shown it in the EU headquarters. We've also shown it there was one audience of 16 people in the bush in Australia under plastic tarpaulins. So that kind of outreach with documentaries is just so exciting, and I think it's what they're made for. Particularly in a post-factual world, people are finding these things really interesting because they know the documentary is solid, like it's been made with generally in partnership with universities. Daniel O'Connell is made in partnership with University College Cork and the University of Notre Dame. And that's really important because it forces a rigour on us, but it also gives the documentary an intellectual heft as it goes out into the world. People know this is. There's no absolute objective truth, but this is close to validated by the highest scholarship in the world.
And what is the thing that you would consider to be your voice as a filmmaker? You know, that thread. You're very interested in digging deep into, you know, a lot of why the world is a certain way, but would you find like a unifying elements or a voice or style or anything like that you could be like, yeah, that's pretty much everything is on some level this.
There's a friend of mine who says that despite all the films you've made, you just keep making the same film. That he just tells me, you just keep making the same film, Ruán. So, and it's true. Like they all say the same thing. I'm fascinated by two things. Like the incredible strength and just the brilliant spirit of humans everywhere. But then also how much we tend to undermine each other, and how cruel we can be to each other. So I find that relationship very, very interesting. That dichotomy very, very interesting. But there's always something in the human spirit that allows some of us, or allows us, if we push, to rise up through it. And you see that in the film Báite as well. I mean, for me, that final moment with Peggy in the pub, I'm not going to tell you why or where or whatever, but that is an embodiment of what all that happens in all the documentaries as well.
And how important is that now?
Be hopeful. Be hopeful. It's possible to be hopeful. It's funny with the documentary we're making on enslavement, on the enslavement of the millions of Africans. One scholar was reluctant to participate because he's going what difference is this going to make? But we convinced him to take part because I pointed to Daniel O'Connell. I said he spent 50 years of his life, nearly every single day, struggling to achieve Catholic emancipation for people who were on their knees in the mud and couldn't help themselves. And nobody thought he'd succeed. And he did succeed. And okay, that was followed by the Irish famine, so you can say that, well, despite all his efforts, nothing changed massively. But if you look at Ireland today, 200 years after the work he began, you can say he succeeded. So things can take time. But it's very important that people speak up and people remain hopeful, and we struggle. As Daniel O'Connell said, agitate.
And I suppose that element of hopefulness, and it is there, that optimism, even though the elements of the subject matter are quite dark, I think there is that thread of humanity and acceptance underneath. But again, without giving too much away, but in terms of drama work, where would you like to lean into as well? Like you did mention that, but as you imagine you got like your blank checks. What are the maybe one or two stories that you'd really love to tell?
The story I'm obsessed with is a story of the interrelationships and intermarriage of white Irish and black formerly enslaved people in 5 Points in New York in the 1800s. I think there's something really interesting that happened there. In fact, I know there is. It was the emergence of music today that we love and dance today that we love happened at that place. So I'm writing a film on that at the moment. And that again, that story's got some darkness because, the white Irish eventually many of them turned out to be more racist than anybody else, and treated the people who they'd lived side by side with for decades appallingly. But at the same time, that's not the story of all of them, and there's something beautiful that happened in there. And I think to be reminded of that, and to be reminded of how wonderful it can be when different cultures come together and create art from that experience, something amazing emerges.
Amazing. Well, I better let you go to your screening. Thank you so much for chatting with us, and hope you enjoy them.
Thank you, Gemma.
Thanks. And then finally we got to speak with some attendees on the ground. So have you been enjoying the festival?
Enormously, yes, thank you.
So what have you seen at the festival?
I've seen Saipan and Donald Lunny and of course
Let the Land Speak.
Let the Land Speak. Yeah.
And have you been to the festival before?
Every year.
Yes. What do you like? What keeps you coming back?
Well, I'm from Roscommon,
Ireland,
and it takes me to a place that I don't have the opportunity to be unless I'm in Ireland.
Yeah.
And so it's Ireland away from Ireland, and it's tremendous. The festival is a powerful force, and I think it's growing enormously. Thrilled that it's in my neighborhood, so to speak.
Yeah.
So and I have lots of friends here.
Oh, brilliant! So you get to kind of share the culture and things. Have you noticed a kind of change in the type of films being screened or stories being told over the years?
Yeah, Yes, I do. I think so. I think we're on a big roll now. I think that this year has been the best so far for me.
Oh wow! And do you go back often? Would you travel home much?
Lots.
Yeah. Oh, great.
As many times. Many during the year.
Does watching the films make you want to go back earlier?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah. Good. I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for chatting with us. I was wondering if you could tell us about the film that you just saw.
Oh, it was gorgeous. Let the Land Speak. I mean, it was just beautiful, and it was very resonant, having traveled to Ireland many times and seen some of the natural beauty, have a greater understanding of the need to sort of connect with the culture and history that permeates the land. So it was marvelous.
And what's your relationship to the festival? What brings you to this particular festival?
Well, my husband's on the board of Solas Nua, and so we've been coming to the festival for several years. For the last few years, we've sponsored one of the films. We sponsored the Friday night film, No Ordinary Heist.
Oh, gorgeous. Yeah, that's a brilliant one.
Yeah,
oh, fabulous.
Yeah, the pacing kept you on the edge of your seat for sure.
Brilliant. And what do you like best about the festival?
Oh, the variety of the films and the way that the festival organizers, Maedhbh in particular, are able to bring artists, directors, producers to come speak about the films and speak about the importance of being able to show their films to an American audience and engage an American audience in the burgeoning Irish film culture. So it's a great introduction to the variety of Irish artistry that is flourishing now.
And what have you seen much? What would be your kind of top pick from this year's festival? Obviously No Ordinary Heist because you're biased, but anything else?
Yeah. Well, I really like Saipan. I mean, the films have been all so different. I really loved Let the Land Speak. I mean, that was just such a beautiful and moving film. I haven't seen anything I didn't like yet, so it's been great.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for chatting with us.
Oh,
Cheers.
my pleasure, yeah.
Thanks. Have you seen much at the festival?
This is my second film. Yesterday I saw Donald Looney.
Brilliant. And do you come every year, or is this your first time?
It's not my first time, but I haven't always been able to come as frequently as I'd like. But this year has been great.
Oh,
and I've run into my good friend.
Yeah, we'll get them on.
Exactly.
And what do you like about the films that you've seen, or what brings you here?
Well, it was very interesting because the first time I went to Ireland was in 1970, and then again in 71, and I met Andy Irvine. So it was all part of the music that was going on, and my friend in Dublin was good friends with Andy and some of the other musicians. So, and I followed Christy Moore. I love his music. So, and my father was born in Ireland, so we were Irish step dancers growing up, and the culture was definitely embedded into us from a young age. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So, no, I'm very happy that I've been able to take in some of the films over the years.
Oh, and we're delighted and hope you enjoy it and the rest of the festival. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're quite welcome.
The Capital Irish Film Festival is one of the largest programmes of Irish cinema in North America, so you can follow the festival now on solasnua.org/CIFF.